Hello everyone, I'm Lindsay Goldthorpe and today I'm going to be discussing my research proposal on multi-component school-based nutrition education intervention for 4th grade students. Quick overview of today's presentation. I will start by introducing you to the topics of childhood obesity and school-based nutrition intervention. I will follow this up with the relevant literature on this topic and then cover the methodology, limitations, and implications of this study. Introduction. The prevalence of childhood obesity rates over the previous decades have contributed to the current obesity epidemic in many parts of the world. Childhood obesity greatly increases the potential for obesity to manifest in adulthood. This in turn may lead to increased incidence and risk of premature death related to associated systemic diseases. Obesity outcomes can be prevented with the incorporation of healthy lifestyle choices, such as increased physical activity and alterations in dietary intake. These factors can influence adolescent health through the incorporation of school-based interventions. Schools are the ideal setting for nutrition intervention, not only because of the opportunity for centralized engagement of students, parents, teachers, and administrators, but also it provides the academic setting to educate the target audience. This is an issue, however, because of standardized testing implemented by the No Child Left Behind Act leaves teachers with little to no institutional time for subjects outside the realm of mathematics, language arts, and science. This requires administrators and nutrition educators to approach nutrition education from a cross-curricular stance. School-based interventions that incorporate secondary approaches in addition to cross-curricular approaches have been found to be more successful. Some secondary approaches may consist of parent involvement or experiential learning, such as school gardens and cooking demonstrations. Studies have revealed that the enhancement of nutrition education programs with experiential learning can result in positive health outcomes, such as increased fruit and vegetable intake as well as preference, and increased nutrition knowledge. Parent involvement in addition to experiential learning is another way in which nutrition education can expand beyond the classroom and promote further success of nutrition interventions. A multi-component approach to school-based nutrition education programs can significantly benefit school-aged children through combating and preventing the occurrence of childhood obesity. The purpose of this study is to implement a multi-component school-based nutrition education intervention that effectively improves dietary behaviors of children to prevent the prevalence of childhood obesity. This aims to achieve the following objectives: increase nutrition knowledge, improve dietary patterns, improve body mass index and waist circumference scores, increase exposure to locally grown fruits and vegetables, and increase parent involvement. This literature review investigated the findings surrounding school-based nutrition education and the components that make up these interventions. This included standards-based nutrition education, experiential learning, and parent involvement. School-based nutrition education programs enable large audiences of school-aged children to receive wellness education. These typically evoke behavioral changes in students. The implementation of these programs is often complicated due in part to pressures faced by teachers with regard to education standards that have been implemented through the No Child Left Behind Act. These require academic disciplines form the foundation for school curriculums and leave educators with little to no time for non-testable subject areas such as nutrition. To address these issues, nutrition educators must develop standards-based nutrition curriculum that enables primary school teachers to incorporate nutrition education into institutional time within the test subject areas. Standards-based nutrition education programs enable teachers to continue educating students on test subject areas while also contributing to nutrition-related outcomes. Previous studies have found these outcomes to be increasing the performance of health-promoting nutrition behaviors in 3rd and 4th grade students, positively impacting mediators of vegetable consumption in 4th grade students, and significantly increasing fruit and vegetable consumption and preference. Overall, this approach has been found to be even more effective when coupled with secondary approaches such as parent involvement and experiential learning. Experiential learning can be incorporated as a secondary method to increase the significance of nutrition-related outcomes. Many studies have included experiential learning through the incorporation of school gardens, cooking demonstrations, taste testing, and various other interactive activities. Overall, these methods have been found to increase healthy eating habits, decrease energy intake, and reduce food consumption, as well as improving nutrition knowledge. In regards to specific methods, school gardens have been found to increase fruit and vegetable exposure, which in turn increases the likelihood of students consuming these vegetables. In addition to this, cooking demonstrations have also been found to improve fruit and vegetable consumption, as well as vegetable preference. Despite these positive outcomes, conflicting findings have been found within the research. For instance, with a multiple component school-based nutrition intervention program, there was no significant impact on vegetable preference or fruit and vegetable intake. Many school-based interventions will also include parent involvement as an additional component to nutrition education. Although no school-based nutrition education program is based exclusively upon parent involvement, it is important to keep in mind that parents have the most influence over what their children eat due to parents' primary roles as the food purchasers and preparers. In addition to this, parent modeling has been found to have a significant influence on fruit and vegetable intake in children. This establishes the importance for parent involvement in the nutrition education of their children. Parent involvement has been seen in many studies through the usage of newsletters, workbooks, and meetings. Findings from these studies have seen parental changes in nutrition attitude and the incorporation of new foods and food groups within the home. Parent involvement is a commonly seen limitation in many studies, and this will be discussed further later in the presentation. Methodology. Sampling procedures will begin by collecting an annotatorium of understanding from the 3 school districts involved in the study. From these 3 school districts, 3 teachers will be recruited using a convenient sample. The classrooms of these teachers will be used to be the sampling pool for students. Consent forms will be given to teachers for distribution among students. Once parental consent is gained from students, they may be implemented into the study for data collection. Students who do not receive parental consent will still experience this study intervention, however, they will just be excused from data collection procedures. The intervention for this study is a quasi-experimental design. Interventions will be made up of 3 components: standards-based nutrition curriculum, experiential learning, and parent involvement. Not all participants will receive all 3 of these components. One school will only receive the standards-based nutrition curriculum. This will serve as a relative control for the study. Another school will receive the nutrition curriculum and a school garden. The last school will receive all 3 components to include monthly parent meetings as well as newsletters and take-home activities. To determine the matching schools to programs, resources and practicality will be assessed at each school environment. The standards-based curriculum will incorporate nutrition education into the subjects of mathematics, language arts, and science. All teachers will attend summer training on how to use and incorporate the program into their lesson schedules. The curriculum will consist of 15 classroom lessons that will discuss food groups, macro and micronutrients, importance of balanced meals and snacks, food labels, hydration, serving and portion sizes, as well as energy balance and expenditure. All lesson materials will be provided to teachers in addition to detailed lesson plans. The experiential learning will be implemented through school gardens and associated cooking demonstrations. These lessons will consist of planting, harvesting, and using the garden's produce in cooking demonstrations. This will provide an opportunity to reiterate relevant nutrition knowledge and educate students on proper food safety and cooking skills. Parental involvement will be implemented in one school to assess the impact parents have on the intervention. This will be incorporated into the program through newsletters, take-home activities, and monthly meetings. Newsletters and take-home activities will accompany each lesson, reinforcing the curriculum at home. An overview of the lessons covered that month will be discussed at monthly meetings with parents. This provides yet another opportunity for parents to learn how to incorporate lesson materials into the home. Data collection will be performed in pre- and post-intervention measures. Measurements obtained will be in the form of survey responses and anthropometric measures. Anthropometric measures will consist of height, weight, and waist circumference. Height and weight measurements will be used to calculate BMI. This, in combination with waist circumference, will provide a more accurate assessment of obesity characteristics in 4th grade students. Precautions will be taken to ensure that students have a positive experience when undergoing anthropometric measures. Surveys will consist of food frequency questionnaires as well as items that address nutrition knowledge and attitudes. Surveys will also be sent home with consenting parents to fill out and return. This will provide insight to parent involvement and potential outcomes of the intervention outside of the classroom. Limitations. One limitation of this study may be the inability to generalize results. This is seen in many studies due to sample size, demographics, or unique circumstances to the setting of the intervention. Results from the study may also be limited due to self-reporting methods on pre- and post-intervention surveys. The lack of direct assessment, specifically in terms of dietary intake, can produce misleading results. Another limitation may be experienced regarding sample size and subjects. Lack of parental consent could result in a small sample size, which would negatively impact the validity of the results. Recruitment technique in teachers may also be another limitation of this study. Teachers will volunteer to receive training and be educators of this program, which can lead to a bias as these teachers are more motivated about the curriculum and the intervention than a general educator. Lastly, parental involvement is a commonly seen limitation in school-based nutrition intervention. This component can be difficult to track and measure. The effectiveness of strategies such as newsletters can be difficult to assess in terms of parents receiving the materials and reading for content. Limitations may also be faced in parent meetings regarding low attendance rates. Implications. The major implication of this study would be to reduce and prevent the prevalence of childhood obesity. The ability to treat and prevent childhood obesity could make a powerful impact on the obesity epidemic. A significant decrease in this trend would lower the incidence of obese adults. This would result in the reduction of obesity-associated comorbidities and premature death due to disorder-related diseases. Significant impacts on obesity rates would only occur if the multi-component school-based nutrition intervention became more largely implemented within school systems. This would entail the program being adapted for all grade levels, which would result in statistically significant outcomes. As a result, the multi-component school-based nutrition education program could become a standardized component of school wellness policies. Listed are the references used for this research proposal presentation.